The alarms screamed through every corridor of Refuge 7. Commander Velix ran on all four legs toward the command center, his insect-like body moving as fast as it could in the low gravity. Behind him, civilians were panicking. Mothers grabbed their children. Merchants abandoned their shops. Everyone knew what those alarms meant. Pirates. Velix burst through the command center doors. His officers were already at their stations, their faces showing the same fear he felt. On the main screen, he could see them. 27 ships, all of them painted with the red markings of the Krenth Marauders. "How long until they reach us?" Velix asked. 30 minutes, his tactical officer replied. Her voice was shaking. "Maybe less." Velix felt his heart sink. Refuge 7 was a trading station, not a military base. They had no weapons. No shields worth mentioning. They were sitting targets. And the Krenth were known for their cruelty. They didn't just steal cargo. They took prisoners, destroyed stations, left nothing behind but wreckage. "Send a distress call to the Coalition Defense Force," Velix ordered. "Maximum priority. Tell them we need immediate assistance." The communications officer worked quickly. A moment later, she looked up with tears in her compound eyes. "Commander, the nearest Coalition fleet is 3 weeks away. They say they'll come as fast as they can, but..." 3 weeks. They had 30 minutes. Velix collapsed into his command chair. 50,000 people lived on this station. 12 different species. None of them were fighters. Most came from peaceful worlds where the idea of violence was foreign. They had no chance against the Krenth. "There has to be someone closer," Velix said quietly. "Anyone." A young officer named Hana spoke up from her station. She was new, barely 6 months on the job. "Sir, what about the humans?" The command center went silent. Every officer turned to look at her. "The humans," Velix repeated. "Yes, sir. They have an outpost in the Talon sector. That's only 14 hours away at maximum speed." Velix hesitated. Everyone in the Coalition had heard stories about humans. They came from a planet called Earth, classified as a Class 12 death world. The classification alone was terrifying. Most species evolved on Class 1 or Class 2 worlds. Peaceful planets with gentle weather and abundant food. Earth was different. The report said Earth tried to kill everything that lived on it. The gravity was crushing. The atmosphere was poisonous to most species. The weather was violent. The predators were nightmares. And somehow, impossibly, one species had survived it all and climbed to the top of the food chain. Humans. They had only joined the Coalition 5 years ago. Nobody knew much about them yet. They were big, dense, and strong. They moved in ways that seemed wrong, like they were always ready to fight or run. Their eyes faced forward like predators. They smiled by showing their teeth. And they scared everyone. "Sir," Hana said again, "should I try to contact them?" Velix looked at the screen. The Krenth ships were getting closer. He could see their weapons charging. In a few minutes, they would start firing. His people would die. All of them. "Do it," Velix said. "Send a distress call to the human outpost." Hana's fingers flew across her console. She sent the message with full emergency protocols. Then they waited. The seconds felt like hours. Velix watched the Krenth fleet approach. 25 minutes now. 20, 15. "Sir," Hana shouted, "I have a response." "Put it through," Velix ordered. A voice came through the speakers. It was deep and calm. "Human. Refuge 7, this is Captain Minji of the human space navy vessel Indomitable. We have received your distress call. Hold your position. Human expeditionary fleet en route. Estimated time of arrival, 14 hours. Velix felt something he didn't expect. Hope. "Please hurry," Velix transmitted back. "We have limited time." "Understood. Indomitable out." The channel closed. Velix stood up and addressed his crew. "You heard them. We need to survive for 14 hours. Get all civilians to the central core. Seal all outer sections. Shut down everything non-essential. Make this station as small a target as possible." His officers moved quickly. Across the station, announcements blared. People ran toward the safe zones. Shop owners grabbed what they could carry. Parents held their children tight. The Krenth ships arrived 10 minutes later. The first message came from their leader, Warlord Threxus. His voice was rough and cruel. "Little station, little people. Give us your cargo and your valuables. Maybe we let you live." Velix knew it was a lie. The Krenth never left survivors, but he had to buy time. "We are a civilian station," Velix replied. "We have no military value. Please, leave us in peace." Threxus laughed. It was a horrible sound. "You have 14 hours before help arrives, yes? We heard your transmission. Human help. How amusing. We will be done with you in 2 hours. Come now, open your docks. Make this easy." Velix cut the transmission. He looked at his officers. "Activate all emergency bulkheads. Flood outer sections with radiation warnings. Make them think we're damaged. Slow them down however we can." It worked for a while. The Krenth were cautious at first. They sent boarding parties to the outer docks. Velix's security teams, armed with nothing but stun weapons, tried to slow them down. They failed. The Krenth warriors were huge and brutal. They pushed through every defense. Hour by hour, the pirates took more of the station. They herded civilians into cargo bays. They looted shops and homes. They laughed as people begged for mercy. Velix watched it all from his command center. He had sealed himself in with his bridge crew. Outside the doors, he could hear the Krenth trying to break through. "How long until the humans arrive?" he asked Hana. 2 hours and 17 minutes, sir." Velix looked at the door. It was buckling. The Krenth were using plasma cutters. They would break through soon. "Will we make it?" someone whispered. Velix didn't answer. He didn't know. The doors finally gave way. Krenth warriors poured in, their weapons raised. Velix stood up, all 4 of his arms spread wide, trying to shield his crew. Then, every screen in the command center lit up at once. "Attention all vessels," a calm human voice said. "This is the human expeditionary fleet. You are ordered to withdraw from Refuge 7 immediately. This is your only warning." On the sensor display, Velix saw them. 6 ships had just appeared at the edge of the system. They were massive, larger than any coalition vessel he had ever seen. And they were moving fast. Impossibly fast. Threxus's voice came over the station-wide channel. "Humans, finally. This will be entertaining. We have 40 ships, you have 6. Surrender now." The human response was simple. "Negative. You have 30 seconds to withdraw. After that, we will open fire." Threxus laughed and gave the order. His ships turned toward the human fleet and fired everything they had. Velix watched the plasma bolts streak across space toward the human vessels. He watched them hit, and he watched them do absolutely nothing. The human ships didn't even slow down. Then they fired back, and everything changed. The first human weapon fired, and Velix didn't understand what he was seeing. There was no bright plasma beam, no elegant energy lance. Just a small object, barely visible on sensors, moving at incredible speed. It hit a Krenth destroyer dead center. The ship simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next it was an expanding cloud of gas and debris. The command center went silent. Even the Krenth warriors who had broken in stood frozen, staring at the screens. "What was that?" Hana whispered. Velix pulled up the sensor data with shaking hands. It was metal. Just a piece of metal. But it was moving at 3% light speed. Another human ship fired. Then another. Each shot was the same. Simple metal projectiles accelerated to impossible velocities. Each one completely destroyed its target. No shields could stop them. No armor could deflect them. The kinetic energy was too massive. 3 Krenth ships became 4, then 7, then 12. Captain Minji's voice came over the communication channel again, still perfectly calm. "Krenth vessels, this is your final warning. Withdraw now or be destroyed." Warlord Threxus screamed into the channel. "All ships, focus fire on the lead human vessel. Destroy them." Every remaining Krenth ship turned their weapons toward the Indomitable. Plasma bolts, missiles, and particle beams all converged on the massive human cruiser. The light show was spectacular, Enough firepower to destroy a small moon hit the human ship from every direction. When the weapon's fire cleared, the Indomitable was still there. Its armor was blackened in places, but otherwise undamaged. It hadn't even changed course. Impossible, Velix breathed. Lieutenant Jihoon's voice came through from the Indomitable. He sounded almost bored. Is that everything? Our turn. The human fleet spread out into a formation that Velix had never seen before. They moved like they were dancing, each ship covering the others. Their targeting was perfect. Every shot hit exactly where they aimed. More Krenth ships died. Their formation fell apart. Some tried to run. The human ships were faster. Some tried to hide behind Refuge 7. The humans simply went around, their shots carefully angled to miss the station. In 8 minutes, it was over. Of the 40 Krenth ships, 23 were destroyed. 15 were crippled, their engines blown out drifting in space. Only 2 managed to jump away to faster than light speed. The Indomitable moved closer to Refuge 7. Captain Minji's face appeared on the main screen for the first time. She was tall. Even sitting down, Velix could tell. Her features were symmetrical in that predatory way humans had. Her eyes were dark and focused. She looked tired, but alert. Commander Velix, she said. Are you secure? We have Krenth boarding parties throughout the station, Velix replied. They're holding hostages, hundreds of them. Minji nodded. Understood. We're sending a marine team. Can you provide station schematics? Of course, but... Velix hesitated. Captain, our corridors are designed for low-gravity species. The gravity is only 0.4 standard. The ceilings are low. Your people might have difficulty. Something that might have been a smile crossed Minji's face. Sergeant Tajin's team trains in low-G environments. They'll manage. Sending them now? Please keep your people away from the outer docks. This might get loud. The transmission ended. Velix pulled up the security cameras showing the docking bay. He watched as a human shuttle attached to the airlock. The Krenth warriors in his command center had been listening to everything. Now their leader, a massive brute covered in scars, laughed. Humans in low gravity? This I want to see. They will float like babies. We will break them. The airlock opened. 12 humans came through. They wore armor that looked too heavy to move in. Each one carried a weapon that seemed designed for destroying vehicles, not fighting in corridors. They were huge, at least 2 meters tall, built with muscle that shouldn't exist on anything from a low-gravity world. Sergeant Tajin was the first one through. He took in the docking bay with a single glance. 3 Krenth warriors were there, holding 6 civilians hostage. In the 0.4 gravity, the Krenth were clumsy. They had evolved on a world with standard gravity and couldn't adapt to the low-G environment. They floated when they moved, pushed off too hard from surfaces. The humans moved like they were born in it. Tajin pushed off from the airlock door and sailed across the bay in a controlled arc. Halfway through, he grabbed a support beam and redirected himself toward the ceiling. He used all 3 dimensions like they were natural to him. The Krenth tried to shoot him. Their plasma bolts went wide. Tajin didn't even slow down. He hit the first Krenth warrior like a missile. The impact sent them both into a wall. The Krenth tried to fight back. Tajin simply held him with one hand and struck him with the other. Once, the warrior collapsed, unconscious. The rest of the human team moved through the bay with the same impossible grace. They bounced between walls, ceiling, and floor. They moved in ways the Krenth couldn't predict. In 6 seconds, all 3 pirates were down. The hostages were safe. Velix watched it happen on his screens. So did everyone else in the command center. The Krenth warrior, who had been mocking the humans, went quiet. Tajin's voice came over the station-wide channel. Station command, docking bay secure, moving to the next location. We're seeing hostages in the merchant quarter, heading there now. Understood, Velix replied. Be careful. There are at least 20 Krenth warriors in that area. 20? Got it? Tajin didn't sound worried. The human team moved through the station like ghosts. They used the low gravity in ways Velix had never imagined. They ran along walls. They leaped 10 meters in a single jump. They moved silently despite their heavy armor. Every time they found Krenth warriors holding hostages, the result was the same. The humans were faster, stronger, and better trained. They never took more than a few seconds to win each fight. And they were always careful. Not a single civilian was hurt. Lieutenant Yunji, the team medic, stayed with each group of rescued hostages. She treated their wounds with gentle hands, speaking softly through her helmet translator. Her voice was kind. She didn't seem like a warrior at all until Velix saw her fight. Then she moved with the same lethal efficiency as the rest of her team. In the command center, the Krenth warriors were getting nervous. Their leader kept looking at the door. Outside, they could hear combat. Human weapons firing, Krenth warriors shouting. Then silence. "They're coming," someone whispered. The leader snarled and pressed his weapon against Velix's head. "Tell the humans to stop, or I kill you all." Before Velix could answer, the wall exploded inward. Not the door. The wall. Corporal Dongyun came through first, his armored shoulder leading. He had simply run through the wall like it was paper. Behind him came the rest of Taejin's team. The Krenth leader tried to shoot. Dongyun was faster. He crossed the room in one jump, grabbed the pirate's weapon, and crushed it in his armored fist. Then he lifted the Krenth warrior off the ground with one hand and threw him into his companions. All 5 pirates went down in a tangle. Taejin and his team secured them in seconds. Velix and his crew were safe. "Command center secure," Taejin reported. "Station is clear, all hostiles captured or neutralized. 0 civilian casualties." Captain Minji's voice came through. "Good work, Sergeant. Return to the Indomitable. We have medical teams standing by for the wounded." Taejin looked at Velix. Even through his helmet visor, Velix could see his eyes. They were tired, but kind. "You're safe now, Commander," Taejin said. "We've got you." Then he and his team left as quickly as they had arrived. Velix sat down slowly. His legs felt weak. Around him, his crew was crying with relief. Outside, he could hear civilians cheering. The Deathworlders had arrived. And they had saved everyone. 2 hours after the battle ended, Captain Minji came aboard Refuge 7. Commander Velix waited for her at the main airlock with his senior staff. He didn't know what to expect. Would she be cruel, demanding? Would she claim the station as a prize of war? The airlock opened and Minji stepped through. She was even taller than she had appeared on screen. Nearly 2 meters with broad shoulders and a straight posture that spoke of military discipline. Her uniform was simple and practical. She moved with controlled grace despite the low gravity. But what surprised Velix most was her smile. It was genuine, warm, even. "Commander Velix," she said, extending her hand. "It's good to meet you in person." "I'm glad we arrived in time." Velix awkwardly took her hand. The human handshake was strange to him. Her grip was firm, but not crushing. Careful. "Captain Minji, I cannot thank you enough," Velix said. "You saved 50,000 lives today." "We did what anyone should do," Minji replied. "Someone needed help. We were able to provide it." She looked around at the damaged station. Repair crews were already working on the walls and systems. Civilians were returning to their homes. Medical teams, both human and alien, were treating the wounded together. "How can we repay you?" Velix asked. Minji shook her head. "No payment necessary, but I would like to address your people, if that's acceptable. And my science officer would like to give a presentation about humanity. I think it might help ease some concerns." Velix understood. The civilians were grateful but terrified. Humans had saved them, yes, but humans were still predators from a death world. Fear and gratitude were mixing in confusing ways. "Of course," Velix said. "We can use the Central Assembly Hall." 3 hours later, the hall was packed. Thousands of people from dozens of species had gathered. They wanted to see these humans up close, to understand them. Captain Minji stood on the stage with several of her officers. Chief Science Officer Hyunwoo set up a holographic display. "Thank you all for coming," Minji began. "I know many of you have questions about my people, about where we come from and why we fight the way we do. My officer will explain." Hyunwoo stepped forward. He was shorter than Minji, stockier, with kind eyes behind glasses. He spoke in simple, clear language. Humans come from a planet called Earth, he said. The display showed a blue and green world. Beautiful, but somehow threatening. We call it home. The Galactic Coalition classifies it as a Class 12 death world. Gasps rippled through the audience. Most people there came from Class 1 or Class 2 worlds, safe worlds. The idea of a Class 12 was nightmare material. Earth's gravity is 2.5 times what you're experiencing now, Hyunwoo continued. From birth, humans live under crushing weight. It makes our bones dense, our muscles strong. What feels normal to us would disable most species within hours. The display showed human children playing, running, jumping, lifting each other, doing things that looked impossible. Our atmosphere contains 21% oxygen, Hyunwoo said. For most of you, this would be toxic. It would burn your lungs and damage your cells. For us, it's what we need to power our metabolism. A Velen scientist in the audience raised a shaking hand. How is that possible? How did you evolve in such conditions? Hyunwoo smiled sadly. We didn't have a choice. Earth is not a kind planet. Let me show you. The display changed. It showed massive storms, hurricanes that covered areas larger than some countries, earthquakes that tore the ground apart, volcanoes that blacked out the sky, tsunamis that drowned coastlines. This is normal weather on Earth, Hyunwoo said. This is what we call a bad Tuesday. Nervous laughter echoed through the hall. But the weather isn't the worst part, Hyunwoo continued. The predators are. The display showed Earth's animals. Lions, tigers, bears, crocodiles, sharks. Each one a perfect killing machine. During human evolution, we shared our world with animals that could kill us in seconds, Hyunwoo explained. We had no claws, no fangs, no armor, no venom. We were slow compared to many predators, weak compared to others. Then how did you survive? Someone asked. Hyunwoo pointed to his head. We thought. We planned. We worked together. And we never, ever gave up. The display showed early humans hunting. They weren't fast, but they were patient. They tracked prey for days. They exhausted animals that were stronger and faster. They used tools and teamwork. We became persistence hunters, Hyunwoo said. We couldn't catch prey in a sprint, so we followed it until it collapsed from exhaustion. We could walk for days without stopping. We could run for hours. We could survive injuries that would kill most animals and keep going. A young Velen in the audience stood up. It was the child who had clung to Lieutenant Yoonji during the rescue. But you're not mean. The soldier who saved me was nice. She held my hand. Hyunwoo smiled at the child. You're absolutely right. And that's the most important thing to understand about humans. Yes, Earth made us strong. Yes, we evolved to be survivors. But it also made us compassionate. He changed the display to show human families, communities, cities. We're pack animals, Hyunwoo explained. Social creatures. We survived because we protected each other. A human alone is tough, but humans together are unstoppable. We developed empathy, cooperation, and the drive to protect those who can't protect themselves. Diplomat Soo-yeon stepped forward. She was elegant and calm, with graying hair pulled back in a neat bun. Earth tried to kill us for millions of years, she said. Every technology we have, we developed to survive. Our medicine exists because diseases killed millions of us. Our engineering exists because we needed to build shelters against impossible weather. Our ships exist because we dreamed of reaching somewhere safer. She paused, looking out at the audience. We don't conquer because we love violence. We protect because we remember being vulnerable. Every human knows what it's like to face something stronger, to need help, to hope someone will come. The hall was quiet. The fear was fading from the aliens' faces, replaced by understanding. A Velen elder stood up. Why did you come? You could have ignored our distress call. Let us die. Taken our station afterward. Captain Minji answered this time. Because 14 hours ago, someone asked for help, and we were able to provide it. That's reason enough. She looked around the room. Humans have a saying, we're all we've got. For most of our history, that was literally true. We were alone on Earth, fighting to survive. Now we're part of a larger community, the Coalition. We're not alone anymore, and neither are you. Junior Officer Minho, young and earnest, added, "My grandmother used to say, strong people don't put others down, they lift them up. Earth made us strong. Now we use that strength to help." The Velen child who had spoken earlier ran up to the stage. Lieutenant Yunji was there, having come aboard for the presentation. The child hugged her leg. "Thank you for saving me," the child said. Yunji knelt down, her expression soft. "You're welcome. That's what we're here for." Applause started slowly, then grew. Within moments, the entire hall was cheering, not from fear, from gratitude and genuine respect. Later, as the presentation ended and people filtered out, Velix approached Captain Minji. "I was terrified when you arrived," he admitted. "I thought the cure might be worse than the disease." Minji nodded. "I understand. We look scary. We fight scary. But we're just people, Commander. We bleed. We hurt. We care. Earth made us survivors, but our choices made us who we are, and we choose to protect. The galaxy needs more like you," Velix said. Minji smiled. "Then it's a good thing we're here." The day after the battle, Sergeant Tajin and his Marine team returned to Refuge 7. But this time they weren't wearing combat armor. They wore simple work clothes and carried repair tools. "We're here to help fix the station," Tajin explained to a confused Velix. "My team has engineering training. We figured you could use extra hands." Commander Velix didn't know what to say. Military forces didn't usually help with reconstruction. They fought, then left. But these humans were different. "We would be grateful for any help," Velix finally said. What followed surprised everyone on the station. The human Marines worked alongside civilian repair crews. They were incredibly useful. Their strength meant they could move heavy equipment that would normally require machines. Their dense bone structure meant they could work in areas with dangerous radiation levels that would harm other species. Corporal Dong Hyun carried a replacement power core through the station by himself. The core weighed half a ton. He needed to stop twice to rest, but he did it. A crew of 6 Velens had been trying to figure out how to transport it for hours. "Is it always this light here?" Dong Hyun asked, referring to the low gravity. "I feel like I could jump to the ceiling." "Please don't," a Velen engineer said nervously. "You might break through." Dong Hyun laughed. It was a warm, friendly sound. "Don't worry, Sergeant Tajin would make me fix it myself if I did." The Velen engineer relaxed a little. These humans had a sense of humor. In another section, Private Yuna was working on a coolant system that had been damaged during the pirate attack. The system was leaking, and the coolant temperature was 15 degrees Celsius, lethal to most species on the station. Yuna simply reached into the leak with her bare hands and sealed it with emergency patches. "Isn't that cold?" a watching technician asked. Yuna shrugged. "A bit chilly, yeah. But I've worked in worse. Last winter back home got down to -20. This is actually kind of nice." The technician stared at her in horror. -20 would freeze most species solid. Over the next few days, the aliens learned more about humans through simple interaction. They discovered that humans were actually quite friendly when they weren't fighting. Lieutenant Unji set up a medical exchange program. She taught Velen doctors about human medicine and learned about their medical practices in return. "Human medicine is strange," one Velen doctor commented. "So aggressive. So much cutting and injecting." Yunji nodded. "Our bodies are tough. They can handle aggressive treatment. We heal fast too. A broken bone that would disable your people for months heals in 6 weeks for us." She showed them human medical scans. The Velen doctors were amazed by the density of human bones, the thickness of human muscles, the efficiency of human organs. "You're built like living tanks," one doctor said with awe. "We had to be," Yunji replied. "Earth doesn't forgive weakness." But the most interesting development came when Commander Velix asked Captain Minji if humans could train the station's security forces. "We were helpless against the pirates," Velix explained. "We need to learn how to defend ourselves, at least enough to hold out until help arrives." Minji agreed immediately. "Sergeant Tajin, can you set up a training program? Yes, ma'am, Tajin replied. But I'll need to adapt it. These aren't humans. Different bodies, different capabilities. The training began the next day. 50 Velen volunteers gathered in a cargo bay that had been converted to a training area. They looked nervous. Taijin stood before them with Private Yuna and Corporal Dongyun. First rule, Taijin began. You're not trying to become human. You can't. Your bodies are different, but different doesn't mean weak. It means you need different tactics. He had them demonstrate their natural movements. Velens moved on 4 legs, were quick in short bursts, and had excellent peripheral vision. You're fast, Taijin observed, and you can see almost everything around you. That's an advantage. Use it. He taught them how to use their natural speed for hit-and-run tactics, how to use their wide vision to avoid being surrounded, how to work in groups to cover each other's blind spots. Private Yuna demonstrated defensive positions, but she moved slowly, carefully, showing them how to adapt the movements to their 4-legged stance. You're lower to the ground than humans, she explained. That makes you harder to hit. It also makes you more stable. Use that. Corporal Dongyun taught them about weapons. Not human weapons, which were too heavy for them, but weapons designed for their smaller frames and different strength levels. A weapon is just a tool, he said. The real weapon is your mind. Think, plan. Don't panic. The young Velen who had been rescued by Yunji was watching from the sidelines with their parents. The child's name was Kirin, and they had decided they wanted to be a security officer when they grew up. During a break, Kirin approached Lieutenant Yunji, who was observing the training. Can I be strong like you? Kirin asked. Yunji smiled and knelt down to the child's eye level. You already are strong. You survived something scary and you're still here. That's real strength. But I can't fight like you, Kirin said. Fighting isn't the only kind of strength, Yunji replied. And you know what? You'll never fight like me. You're a Velen. You'll fight like a Velen. That's different, but just as good. She pulled out a small data pad and showed Kirin images of Velen security officers from other stations. See, they protect their people too, in their own way. Kirin's eyes widened. Really? Really, Yunji confirmed. Every species has their own strengths. Humans are tough and stubborn. Velens are fast and aware. The Premins are smart and careful. The Zorlans are patient and precise. We're all different. We all contribute. Over the following weeks, humans became a regular sight on Refuge 7. They weren't conquerors or overlords. They were neighbors, helpers, friends. Junior Officer Minho started teaching interested civilians about human culture. He showed them Earth music, which most aliens found too loud and chaotic. He showed them Earth food, which most aliens found too spicy and dangerous. He showed them Earth sports, which most aliens found terrifying. You chase a ball and run into each other on purpose? A Velen asked while watching a recording of human football. It's fun, Minho said with a grin. Your idea of fun is our idea of assault, the Velen replied. Minho laughed. Fair point. But the most important moment came when a Velen merchant approached Sergeant Tajin in the station's market. I was wrong about humans, the merchant said. I thought you were monsters, predators who would hurt us. Tajin tilted his head. And now? Now I think you're predators who choose to protect instead of hunt. That makes you the best kind of people. Tajin smiled. We're just doing what we think is right. The merchant handed him a small gift, a traditional Velen peace offering. Thank you for coming when we called. Always, Tajin replied. That's what neighbors do. That evening, Captain Minji met with Commander Velix in his office. My superiors want to establish a permanent human presence in this sector, Minji said. Not to control it, to protect it. Would that be acceptable? Velix didn't hesitate. More than acceptable. Welcome. We would be honored to have you here. Minji extended her hand for another one of those human handshakes. Velix took it, no longer awkward. Then we'll stay, Minji said. And if anyone threatens this station or any other peaceful settlement in this sector, they'll have to go through us first. I pity anyone foolish enough to try, Velix said. They both smiled. The alliance was sealed. Not through conquest or force, through trust, respect, and the simple act of showing up when help was needed. Outside the office window, humans and aliens worked together on the final repairs. Children of multiple species played together in the parks. Vendors sold food from a dozen worlds. The Deathworlders had arrived. And they had stayed. Not as masters, but as guardians. And the galaxy was better for it. News traveled fast in the Galactic Coalition. Within days, every species had heard about what happened at Refuge 7. The story spread across 1,000 worlds. Humans, the newcomers from the Death World, had destroyed a pirate fleet and saved 50,000 civilians without asking for anything in return. The reactions were mixed. Some species were grateful, others were nervous. A few were outright terrified. But everyone was talking about humanity. 3 weeks after the rescue, the Galactic Coalition Council called an emergency session. Representatives from 200 species gathered in the Great Chamber on the capital world. Commander Velix was there, invited to give his testimony. So was Captain Minji, the council leader, an ancient being called Prex from a species that had been spacefaring for 10,000 years, opened the session. "We have gathered to discuss the incident at Refuge 7, Prex said in a voice like wind through crystals, and to address the question of humanity's role in coalition security. Some council members shifted nervously. Humans had only been members for 5 years. Giving them a security role seemed dangerous to some. Velix was called to speak first. He stood before the entire council, all 4 of his legs shaking slightly. 3 weeks ago, my station was attacked, Velix began. We had no weapons, no defenses. The coalition fleet was 3 weeks away. We were going to die, all of us." The chamber was silent. "The humans arrived in 14 hours, Velix continued. They destroyed the pirate fleet. They rescued every hostage. They didn't lose a single civilian. Then they stayed to help us rebuild. They asked for nothing. Not payment, not territory, not even gratitude." He looked directly at Prex. "I was afraid of humans. I thought they would be brutal, cruel. They are from a death world, after all. But I was wrong. Yes, they are strong. Yes, they are deadly when they fight. But they choose to use that strength to protect, not to harm." A council member from the Zoran species, tall and crystalline, spoke up. "But what happens when they decide we are the threat? What stops them from turning on us?" Before Velix could answer, Captain Minji stood. She had been given permission to address the council. "May I speak?" she asked. Prex nodded. "Please." Minji walked to the center of the chamber. 200 species watched her every move. "I understand your fear," Minji said. "Humans are powerful. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day. We evolved to be survivors, fighters, hunters. In your position, I would be afraid too." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But let me tell you what Earth really taught us," Minji continued. "It taught us that alone, we die. Together, we survive. For millions of years, humans lived in small groups protecting each other. A human alone might be strong, but they're still vulnerable. We learned that our greatest strength isn't our muscles or our weapons. It's our ability to cooperate, to protect those who can't protect themselves." Representative Gion, Earth's official ambassador, joined Minji at the center. She was older, with silver hair and wise eyes. "Earth made us strong," Gion said, "but it also made us empathetic. We know what it's like to be hunted, to be vulnerable, to need help and not have it come. We remember those feelings. They're part of who we are." She looked around at all the council members. "You ask what stops us from turning on you? The answer is simple. Our nature. We're pack animals. Tribal. We expand our definition of us to include those we care about. And we've decided that the coalition, all of you, are part of our pack now." A small council member from a peaceful garden world spoke up timidly. "But you could change your minds." "We could," Minji agreed. "Any species could. That's why trust is important, and trust is earned through actions, not words. Judge us by what we do, not by what we look like." Prex raised a crystalline hand. "The Council acknowledges humanity's actions at Refuge 7, But we must consider the broader implications. 17 more stations in the Outer Rim have requested human protection. Pirates are already avoiding sectors where human ships patrol. This is a significant shift in coalition dynamics. Is that a bad thing? Velix asked. Fewer pirate attacks means fewer deaths. A military council member, General Corthan of the Brel species, stood. He was one of the few species in the coalition with actual combat experience. I have reviewed the battle footage from Refuge 7, Corthan said. The human tactics are unlike anything in our military doctrine. They use brute force weapons that we abandoned centuries ago. Kinetic kill vehicles, chemical propellants, physical armor instead of shields. And it works, Minji said simply. Our technology might seem primitive, but it's effective. We use what works, not what's elegant. Corthan nodded slowly. Which is why I support a formal partnership. The coalition has sophisticated technology but limited combat experience. Humans have extensive combat doctrine and the will to use it. Together, we could create something better than either alone. Prex considered this. You propose a joint defense initiative? I do, Corthan replied. Let humans handle security and combat training. Let coalition species handle advanced technology and logistics. Combine our strengths. The debate went on for hours. Some council members supported the idea. Others opposed it. But slowly, gradually, support grew. Finally, Prex called for a vote. All in favor of establishing the Joint Defense Initiative with humanity as primary security partners? The vote was counted. Out of 200 species, 187 voted yes. Only 13 voted no. The measure passes, Prex announced. Humanity is hereby granted expanded security responsibilities within Coalition space. Welcome to your new role, Captain Minji. Minji bowed respectfully. We won't let you down. 2 months later, Sergeant Tajin returned to Refuge 7 with his team. But this time, they brought others. Velan security officers who had completed human combat training. Zoran engineers who had learned human repair techniques. Brel tacticians who studied human military strategy. The Joint Defense Initiative was growing. In the training bay, the young Velan named Chiron was there, watching Lieutenant Yunji teach defensive techniques to a mixed group of species. Each of you is different, Yunji was saying. Different bodies, different abilities, but you all have the same goal. Protect those who can't protect themselves. That makes you all warriors, regardless of your species. A fresh group of recruits, representing a dozen species, practiced together. They were clumsy at first, but they were learning. Learning not to fight like humans, but to fight like themselves. Better versions of themselves. Captain Minji stood with Commander Velix on an observation deck, watching the training. Do you think this will work? Velix asked. Can we really build a galaxy-wide defense force? I don't know, Minji admitted. But we have to try. The alternative is letting people suffer when we could help them. Suddenly, an alert came through on Minji's communication device. Ensign Yunho's voice crackled through. Captain, we're receiving a distress call from the mining colony in the Talon sector. They're under attack by raiders, requesting immediate assistance. Minji and Velix exchanged glances. How long to get there? Minji asked. At maximum speed, 6 hours, Yunho replied. Minji smiled. Alert the fleet. Set course immediately. And send a message to the colony. Help is on the way. She looked at Velix. Want to come? Your security teams could use the field experience. Velix straightened all 4 legs. We would be honored. Within minutes, the combined human-Velan task force was launching from Refuge 7. Human ships and newly commissioned coalition defense vessels moving together, heading toward people who needed help. In the training bay, young Kirin watched the ships depart and made a decision. When they were old enough, they would join the defense initiative. They would learn to protect others, just like the humans who had saved them. Earth had sent its children to the stars. And those children remembered what it was like to be vulnerable, to be afraid, to need help. Now they made sure that when someone called for help, someone would answer. The Deathworlders had arrived, and they had brought something the galaxy desperately needed, the will to stand between the weak and those who would harm them. not for glory, not for profit, simply because it was the right thing to do. And across 1,000 worlds, people slept a little safer, knowing that somewhere out there, the humans were watching, ready to come when called, ready to fight when needed, ready to protect those who could not protect themselves. The galaxy had found its guardians, and they wore the face of Earth's children.